The German shepherd stopped mid-stride, his muscles tense, breath shallow. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Ace had never reacted like this, never without reason. It was just another shipping container, bound for San Francisco. Just another patrol shift. Except something inside that box wasn't meant to be found. Not by scanners, not by humans, only by him. Before we begin this unforgettable story, would you mind sharing where you're from in the comments, and if stories of love, loyalty, and second chances move you? Please give this video a like and consider subscribing. A thick curtain of heat hung over Miami International Airport that late August morning. The sky was streaked in washed-out shades of blue. And the sun, already high by 9 a.m., baked the tarmac with unforgiving intensity. The air shimmered faintly above the runways, and a chorus of jet engines formed a continuous, droning backdrop to the orchestrated chaos of one of America's busiest transportation hubs. Standing near the cargo screening zone of Terminal D, Ethan Brooks wiped a bead of sweat from his brow and looked down at his partner. Ace, a 4-year-old German shepherd with a sable coat and intelligent amber eyes. Ace sat upright, his ears pricked, posture alert. The dog's lean frame and powerful shoulders hinted at his military-grade training. Ethan had worked with Ace for 3 years, and their bond went far beyond commands and compliance. They were a team forged through drills, tense airport sweeps, and countless quiet hours patrolling unnoticed. Ethan himself was in his mid-30s, tall and lean, with cropped dark blonde hair and a jaw perpetually shadowed by a day's stubble. His demeanor was calm, precise, traits honed during his service in the Air Force before transitioning into federal security roles. Life had trained him to trust gut instinct and, above all, his canine partner. "All right, buddy," Ethan muttered, tightening his grip on Ace's leash as they approached the cargo holding area, assigned to Flight HZ2 a Hudson Air route bound for San Francisco. The manifest had cleared an hour ago, but this was a random recheck, standard practice. Nothing more until it wasn't. Ace's calm posture stiffened the moment they reached the second container marked Electronics. Fragile. The dog's nose twitched furiously as he began circling the crate, sniffing with growing agitation. Then, with a sudden bark, sharp and clipped, he sat and stared directly at the container, a low growl vibrating in his throat. Ethan's expression tightened. "What is it?" Boy Ace didn't move. Ethan tapped his radio. "Control, this is Unit 9. K9 alert on cargo container. K44 Flight HZ216, requesting hold on departure and secondary inspection." A burst of static, negative. "Unit 9, Flight HZ216 is cleared for takeoff in 20 minutes. All cargo has passed Tier 3 screening. Proceed with patrol." Ethan's jaw clenched. Ace has signaled. "This isn't protocol, it's instinct. I'm not clearing this until someone verifies the crate within moments." A figure in a crisp Navy pilot uniform approached. Captain Tyler West was a man in his early 50s, clean-shaven, with sun-weathered skin and the composed presence of a seasoned aviator. His voice was deep, calm. "Something wrong with my cargo." Officer Ethan nodded toward Ace, still staring down the container. "K9 alert. My partner doesn't false flag. I'm requesting your cooperation to delay departure until it's checked." Tyler looked at the dog, then at Ethan. His years in the cockpit had taught him one rule: never ignore the small things. "All right," he said after a beat. "You have 15 minutes. Make it count elsewhere." Inside Terminal D, seated near Gate 34 with her laptop open and earbuds in, Claire Morgan was multitasking as usual, 38, with short auburn hair tucked behind one ear and keen eyes that had seen both war zones and corporate boardrooms. She worked for the Chicago Tribune as an investigative journalist, known for her relentless pursuit of truth and unflinching attitude. Claire had made waves 3 years ago when she exposed illegal data collection by a biotech firm in Boston. That story had earned her acclaim and enemies this morning. She was quietly following a tip about a major defense contractor possibly using airports to ship unregistered technology. A source had directed her to board Flight HZ-216, hinting there might be something worth observing. Claire glanced up from her screen just in time to see uniformed security surrounding the cargo hold of her flight. Her instincts kicked in, the moment the latch clicked open. A hush fell over the hangar. The container's metal door groaned as it was pulled aside, revealing an orderly stack of dark gray equipment cases. Each was sleek, matte finished, and labeled with vague descriptors like thermal sensor array and communication interface module. Ethan Brooks tightened his grip on Ace's leash. The dog's body was rigid, ears forward, his nose twitching furiously. He let out a low growl and fixed his eyes on the lowest row of cases. Claire Morgan, now wearing her ID badge around her neck. Stepped closer, she squinted at the cases. That's not standard packaging. These don't match any shipment protocols I've seen. Captain Tyler West stood beside them, arms crossed. Looks harmless enough, he said. But I've learned not to question that dog. An airport security officer approached with a handheld scanner and waved it across one of the containers. The screen blinked uncertainly. This casing's throwing off interference, the officer said. The readings are bouncing. Ethan frowned. Let's open one, with gloved hands. The officer undid the case clasps. Inside lay what appeared to be a compact electronic board enclosed in translucent plastic, lined with thin metallic filaments that shimmered faintly. It looked like a sensor array, ordinary to the untrained eye, but Ace barked once, sharp and deliberate, and backed away. Claire stared. A memory surfaced from her reporting days, lab photos from a confidential Virexon Technologies dossier. Wait, this looks familiar, she murmured. She stepped in, eyes narrowing. I've seen this material before. That inner casing, that's reflective polymer, used to mask electromagnetic output. Ethan turned to her. What does that mean? It means whatever's inside doesn't want to be scanned. This kind of material was used in a failed Virexon Technologies prototype, Project Echo. It was supposed to be a next-gen sensory data processor, but it was scrapped when investigators found out it was tied to neural pattern recognition. Tyler raised a brow. Neural pattern, what Claire nodded. More to herself than anyone else. Cognitive signature tracking, the theory was. You could track a person based on brainwave echoes. It was marketed as security tech. But there were allegations it could be repurposed to influence emotions, even behavior. Ethan exchanged glances with Tyler. You're saying this equipment could manipulate people if it's what I think it is. Yes, Claire said grimly. This isn't just surveillance, it's behavioral influence tech. The original program was shut down after congressional pressure, but clearly, the design lived on. They looked back at the open case. The device inside now seemed far less benign. Someone was trying to move this tech quietly, Ethan said, stepping back through a commercial flight. Tyler exhaled slowly. Without Ace, they would have succeeded. The morning air in Coral Gables was thick with moisture as the sky loomed overcast. A slow drizzle tapped at the windshield of Claire Morgan's rideshare vehicle as it pulled up to a small research annex tucked behind the University of Miami. The glass doors bore the faded lettering, Keen Materials Research Lab. Claire stepped out with determined pace. She had come here looking for answers. and the only person who could give them was Dr. Olivia Keene. Olivia answered the door in a stained lab coat and worn sneakers, her tall frame slightly stooped, and eyes sharp behind old wire-rimmed glasses. Her graying hair was pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, and she greeted Claire with a weary look, as though she had been expecting her. "You're the reporter," Olivia said. "I figured someone would connect the dots eventually. Come in, inside." The lab was cluttered yet purposeful. Equipment samples, printed data sheets, and partial polymer models filled the countertops. Claire laid a photo of the interior of the cargo container on the table, zoomed in on the reflective casing. Olivia studied it silently, then gave a single nod. "That's derived from stealth skin. The coating was meant to block infrared and electromagnetic detection. We were building it for medical device security. The military had other ideas." Claire raised an eyebrow. "What kind of ideas cargo that doesn't want to be seen?" Olivia replied, "The stuff in your photo wasn't from my lab. Though, that's a more recent build, weaponized version. Whoever made that took my work and bent it." Claire sat forward. "You left the project. I was pushed out when I objected to the military direction." Olivia said, "They wanted shielding for black site transports, things that could fly under international radar. I said no. My funding was cut the next week." Claire took a slow breath. "The casing we found was being used to hide a device I suspect is part of a behavioral tracking system. Neural signature mapping. Does that sound familiar?" Olivia blinked, then turned away for a moment. "Project Holloway," she muttered. "Not mine, but I heard rumors. The tech was shelved after a congressional ethics panel got involved. The fact that it surfaced again means someone out there never stopped." "Would Hawkstone Dynamics have the capacity to resurrect it?" Claire asked. Olivia's expression went still. "They bought 2 of our former subcontractors. I haven't seen documentation, but if anyone had access to the polymer blueprints, it'd be them, just then." Claire's phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "I've been pulled off duty. They're transferring Ace to Atlanta. Officially, they said we disrupted protocol." Claire's grip tightened. "They're moving fast. They want anyone who touched that crate out of the way." Meanwhile, inside the Miami Airport Administration Office, Ethan Brooks sat silent as his superior read the formal suspension notice aloud. "Effective immediately, your clearance is suspended pending investigation. The agency has also begun reassignment procedures for K-9 Unit Ace. He will be transferred to TSA Explosives Operations." Ethan didn't respond. He looked through the glass toward the parking lot where Ace, now kenneled in the transport unit, waited. He stood abruptly. "You're making a mistake. That dog saved lives." The director, a lean, composed woman named Sandra Bell, offered only a practiced shrug. "This came from above me." "Ethan." My hands are tied, as the door closed behind him. Ethan's only thought was, "This isn't about rules. It's about someone trying to cover tracks." Back in the lab, Claire pocketed her phone. "You're the only one who can confirm this tech isn't supposed to exist anymore." Olivia's shoulders sank. "You're not the first person to warn me. Last month, a friend in federal procurement called to say my name had surfaced again, attached to devices I didn't authorize." Claire met her eyes. "Then we're both walking a tightrope." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the rain beginning to beat more steadily on the roof. The wind at Denver International Airport bit through the fabric of Claire Morgan's coat as she stepped off the private charter. The air was thin, sharp with altitude, and the sky above a pale, turbulent gray. There was no time for scenery. Inside the secured conference facility adjacent to the runway, the clock was ticking. Claire Ethan, and Dr. Olivia Keene had arrived with a single objective: present hard evidence before anyone could sweep it under the rug. Ethan moved with practiced precision, dressed again in uniform though still officially on administrative leave. His face was pale with lack of sleep, jaw clenched. Ace, his loyal German shepherd, followed closely. The dog's black and tan coat gleamed under the sterile lighting, his amber eyes ever scanning, tail low but alert. Inside, the makeshift briefing room had been hastily arranged: a projection screen, a folding table lined with binders, and a semicircle of chairs facing forward. Already seated were agents from the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, their badges clipped prominently, their faces unreadable. None spoke. At the center sat Senator Douglas Kearns, a well-known legislator from Minnesota and chair of the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Aviation Oversight. He was in his early 60s, clean-shaven, hair thinning at the temples, but his voice was firm. "You've requested an emergency review. This better be good." Olivia stepped forward first, dressed in a charcoal gray coat and maroon scarf. She carried herself like a scientist under fire, cautious, but resolved. "We're here today because the shielding technology I developed has been misused," she began. "It's been modified and employed to move dangerous, unregistered tech through civilian airports." Claire followed, laying documents and images on the table. "We have proof that these shipments are bypassing federal scanners undetected. They've already reached major hubs. We believe the goal is full deployment without oversight." Ethan pointed to the crates brought in by airport logistics. These contain simulated payloads. One is exposed, the other is coated in the modified polymer. Kearns raised a brow. "You're about to tell me a dog will find what your machines can't." "Yes," Ethan replied. "This dog stopped the original container at Miami. Today, he'll show you why." He gave the command, "Ace, search." The room held its breath. Ace moved to the first crate and sat promptly. Then, after a beat, he circled the second, nose twitching, pawing once, then he barked, a short, sharp alert, and sat. The room went still. Claire spoke into the silence. "The scanner you installed at Miami cleared this container." But Ace knew better. Senator Kearns folded his hands. "I don't want to believe what this implies." Claire locked eyes with him. "But you already do," as murmurs stirred around the room. Claire's phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from her editor. "Sources at Hawkstone are circling. You want to go public? Do it now, before they do." She looked down at her hand, hesitating. Publishing now could break the story open, force the government's hand, but it would also expose her source, her method, and herself, her movements, her family. Everything she touched could be under watch within hours. She closed the phone. Not yet. 3 weeks had passed since the emergency session in Denver. Washington. D.C. was in the throes of late spring, dogwoods blooming, tourists returning to the National Mall, and a hum of quiet tension in the marble corridors of Capitol Hill. The storm had broken, and its effects rippled through every major agency. The official investigation had launched within 48 hours of Ace's demonstration. The Department of Justice suspended all contracts and ongoing negotiations involving Hawkstone Dynamics. Their D.C. office was raided. Dozens of laptops and servers were seized. Several mid-level executives were placed on administrative leave, while a sealed grand jury began examining internal communications and financial records. Senator Douglas Kearns, who had once approached the case with cautious skepticism, now appeared regularly in press briefings, pledging sweeping reforms to screening infrastructure procurement. His formerly stoic face took on an edge of urgency rarely seen in politicians of his tenure. Meanwhile, in Miami, Ethan Brooks stood once more inside the K-9 Division's headquarters. Gone was the uncertainty and quiet frustration of suspension. The air around him now carried a subtle buzz of pride. "You're looking at the new K-9 training chief," his colleague, Officer Jamil Torres, said with a grin. Jamil was short, powerfully built, with a shaved head and the energy of someone who couldn't sit still for long. "Promotion went through this morning." Ethan blinked. "They didn't even call me. They figured you were too busy saving the aviation system to answer your phone." Ace barked softly from the far corner of the office, where he rested on a new orthopedic mat. His coat brushed to a glossy shine. A red, white, and blue collar tag had been added, gifted by a child during a school visit. Ethan scratched behind his partner's ears. "We did okay, didn't we? Boy elsewhere in Washington." Dr. Olivia Keene was walking the polished halls of the TSA Innovation Branch inside Homeland Security's tech campus. Her role was clear now: Senior Science Advisor on Materials Integrity. She had an office, a badge, a team of analysts that actually listened, but more importantly, she had the chance to write policy, not just code. On her desk sat a framed printout of the scan Ace had exposed, the one that changed everything. Below, it was a note handwritten in pen. "Thanks for telling the truth. C. M. and Claire Morgan." She was everywhere. The front page of the New York Times, The Atlantic, Wired, and dozens of local papers bore the title of her exposé, "Invisible Cargo: How One Dog Uncovered the Secret Threat to American Airports." It had gone viral within hours of publication. Radio interviews, podcast specials, book deal offers she hadn't yet answered. In public, she remained calm and composed. In private, she moved with caution. Her phone was monitored, her emails encrypted, but she had no regrets. Inside her apartment, cluttered with printouts and legal pads, she replayed the Capitol Hill footage for the 5th time that evening. The event had been simple, formal, an honor ceremony. The camera panned over rows of lawmakers and press. Before resting on the podium where a uniformed Marine held a plaque, a few steps away stood Ethan, in his full dress, blues, one hand resting on Ace's harness. "In recognition of service above and beyond duty," the speaker said, "we present this commendation to K-9 Unit Ace, whose instincts and training helped prevent a national breach of aviation security." Applause thundered. Ace, as if understanding, sat up straighter in that moment. No one spoke of technology or corporations or politics, only trust, only instinct, only one German shepherd, standing on a carpeted stage beneath the Capitol dome, representing what vigilance really meant. Sometimes, the smallest signs hold the greatest warnings. A dog's bark, a feeling in your gut, a whisper of something wrong. These aren't coincidences. They're reminders that faith often speaks in subtle ways. In this story, it wasn't high-tech systems or political power that saved lives. It was trust, loyalty, and the pure instinct of a faithful dog, perhaps even a little miracle sent by God. Ace's story is a testament that even in a world of machines and money, the hand of God still moves. He reminds us that when we stand for truth, even against the odds, divine light finds a way to shine through the darkness. Whether you're an officer, a journalist, or just someone trying to do the right thing, know this: He sees you, and He works through you, so in your everyday life. Stay faithful, pay attention to the small signs, trust the inner voice God gave you, and when the time comes, don't be afraid to act if this story touched you. Please share it with someone. Drop a comment. Say Amen if you believe that God still works through the humble and the brave. Subscribe to the channel, and may God bless you and protect your family always.